Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: a complainer gets himself fired, and a gossip gets herself fired. The second story: my boss and company didn't want to give me fair and equal pay, so it cost them over $40 million when the system crashed the very night that I left the company. The third story: CEO, F off, me, okay, bye. The first story is the only time I've seen someone's fired without warning. I've waited a while to post this one, so some of the details have been lost to time, unfortunately. I'm the night audit at an extended stay hotel near the headquarters of some major companies, and one of them decided to hire an outside contractor to help with some project or another. This was great for us and the contractor, so there was a lot of communication about how they would be booking, our amenities, and so on. Most of the people were angels, never complained, were friendly with staff, didn't leave a huge mess, absolutely perfect. Except for this one guy named Richard, but I'll shorten it to Dick. I met Dick first because he would call every couple days at 5 a.m. our time to ask what I considered to be inane questions about the pool and hot tub and room layout. He seemed fine, and the questions were easy enough to answer. Everything seemed fine. Until check-in. Dick somehow persuaded the FD to upgrade him to one of our nicer suites at the end of the hall. A no-no. Their contract was very strict about available room types. He was the at the time highest elite mega status, but these people were going to be here for a while. Big no-no. Dick had a houseman help him bring his luggage up and started to settle in. All was quiet, except apparently to Dick, who called down an hour later with a noise complaint for the room above. FD apologized profusely and passed along the complaint to the room. Another hour passed and Dick called again for a noise complaint for the same room. Per policy, this time we went up to the room and told them if it happens again we get the cops involved, except the room in question contained a young mom, very apologetic, who said her toddler had been playing quietly earlier, but had already been put to bed. All she'd been doing the past half hour was watching TV, and what we could hear was a reasonable volume. I got on shift and all of this was passed along to me. So when he called down again at 6:45 a.m. with a third noise complaint, I made an executive decision and offered him a room on the next and highest floor. If there's no one above him, no more noise complaints. He hemmed and hawed a bit and agreed to it, but he insisted he needed someone to help him with his luggage. It wasn't even 7 yet. The houseman wouldn't be in till 10, and head housekeeper was walking the halls to see if some rooms have no service signs up. Welp, time to go leave the desk unmanned for who knows how long, I guess. To Dick's credit, he did tip me $5 for helping. To his discredit, he spent the time handing me shirts to put on the cart, and mansplaining about how tipping works. Now that Dick had the scent for blood, the complaints came pouring in over the next 2 weeks. The dresser is discolored in a small patch. The closet door keeps going off its track. The cable internet isn't working properly. The cable internet isn't working properly. The cable internet isn't working properly. We literally timed it. Over an hour and a half, he called every 5 minutes to ask when we would fix the cable internet. Dick would refuse to be put on hold, and he would not accept the only answer we could give him, that the cable company had looked at the issue and were waiting for parts to arrive. The front desk girl went in the back and cried from the stress of having to deal with him, and check in guests and all the other things FD does. Now all of that is super SH, and we were all getting pretty annoyed with him, but technically it's all within ordinary guest behavior. The letter, if not the spirit of the law. But remember, Dick was not staying here alone. He began complaining to his fellow coworkers about all these issues, and insisting that other hotels never had these problems. In fact, they should be offered the nice suite at the end of the hall. He had one. They all should be getting full turn-down service every single day, even though we tell them that isn't how we do it. Several people came forward, complaining to the manager that they weren't receiving the benefits, that Dick was, and finally, that was enough. Our sales manager wrote to Dick's parent company, the contractor, listed out everything that had been happening, and asked if maybe they could do something about their employee. If they could get him to not say, shout at our poor front desk girl like he did for half an hour yesterday. And to our surprise, they did. They told him he had 2 days to get his stuff packed and get home, where they fired him. Holy SH. Now enter player 2, one of our own agents of front desk, Carrie. I don't remember how many of the shifts listed above she worked, not crying at least. But through the 2 weeks he stayed here, the SH was spread pretty evenly. He would complain to me as he left for work. He would call AM shift to wind through the day, and he would be out PM shift when he got back. God forbid you worked weekends. We of course talked about it amongst each other, what he'd done and what he'd been egging on other people to do. It was easily the most drama we'd had in a while. And Carrie, sweet Carrie, not the sharpest tool in the tool shed, literally took months and 3 people to train her, when most of us managed with 2 weeks and 1 person. But the nicest girl, very friendly, especially with the remaining contractor employees. They'd just had a big shakeup. One of their own had just gotten fired out of the blue, and no one knew why. Oh, but Carrie knew why. Unluckily for Carrie, our higher-ups were already scheduled to be in town the weekend after head of housekeeping heard her telling the contractors that we'd gotten the man fired for complaining too much. They let her finish out the week and quietly fired her. And we all got an in-person, including me, reminder to not share the confidential information with guests what the hell she was thinking. I once read about a rather similar case in an extended stay hotel. The clients there were contracted to get 1-bedroom rooms because they were all coming for a month or more. One guy was there for barely a month. He was talking loudly on the phone with the speaker on in the lobby, trying to engage the receptionist in political or religious conversations, and trying to explain different cultures to the people there. He was whining about his religious beliefs to one employee for an hour. I honestly don't remember what the last straw was, but the guests started complaining about him too. Eventually, the general manager got sick of it and called the company and happened to talk to another guest who is the guy's boss. By the end of the week, he packed up and left. I think this guy got fired too. This second story is, company didn't want to pay me a fair wage, and the day after I quit, it cost the company around $40 million. I got an IT job working for a factory in the southern US. This was a very small farming town of about 3,000 people, so IT people are non-existent. In fact, I lived 2+ hours away from this town when I took the job and moved to that town. This is important information for later. When I took the job, it was a contract position for $29K per year, and the intention was to hire me full-time directly to the company within 1 year. My coworker was full-time with the company and was making $93K per year. For roughly 3 years, it was just us 2 IT guys supporting 2 factories. Then all of a sudden, they give us a 3rd location to support, and at this time, I was hired on full-time with the company for a salary of $31K per year. My coworkers still made over $90K. Around this same time of getting extra workload and getting hired full-time, my boss retired. My coworker got promoted to the regional manager and turned into my new boss, which left me being the only IT guy to support 3 factories. I averaged 16-hour days, 7 days a week for over a year. I worked literally every single weekend, every holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, every single holiday. Every anniversary, every birthday of mine, my wife and my kids was missed because I was working. I was on call 24/7 for 3 different locations by myself for over a year. There were no bonuses at this company unless you're management. This went on for a little over a year, and I told my boss I needed my salary to match his old salary before his promotion, $90K per year, or I was leaving. This seemed fair to me considering I was making 1/3 of his old salary, and I had 3 times the workload he had. We discussed my raise several times over the course of a month, and finally he comes back to me with a pay raise of $800 annually, a pay raise of $66 per month before taxes. He said that was the most the company could possibly afford. This is a multinational company with a presence in over 20 countries, and profit earnings of roughly $4 billion profit per year. Fast forward 3 months. I found another job that doubled my salary with a tiny fraction of the workload. I turn in my 2-week notice and my boss in HR freaks out because there are 0 IT people in this tiny farming community, and it took them 6 months just to find me when they hired me. So they start doing every single little thing that they can to make my work and personal life as miserable as possible for the last 2 weeks, including writing me up saying I was a disgruntled employee because I had turned in my 2 weeks notice. This was a right-to-work state, which means workers have little rights, and there are no unions. The way these IT systems were set up required 100% uptime. If a printer, workstation, or network switch went down for more than 90 minutes, the company lost $218,000 per minute until connectivity was restored. On my last week of work, my boss was in Costa Rica with his new girlfriend, and one of the 3 sites had an issue. There was no IT within the company except me and my boss that had any possible way to work on the problem, and I had just turned in my phone and computer about 12 hours prior. My personal phone and email and social media DMs was blowing up from messages from everyone at that site, trying to get me to go back into my old office, get my old company computer and phone, and log in to fix it for free at 2 a.m., even though I technically didn't even work for the company anymore, because nobody could get in touch with my boss in Costa Rica. Incredibly unlucky timing for my previous employer. I sat awake in bed for hours just watching my phone and email blow up in the middle of the night, and I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life. It was the most glorious karma I could have ever asked for, and it was basically instant karma too, which is rare. Note for clarification. I'll explain this in as much detail as I can to the best of my ability without breaking any rules. The company I worked for was a manufacturing company that manufactured certain components for the automotive industry. Different engine components, exhaust, interior, seating, etc. The site that went down is what that company called JIT, and it stood for just in time. This site kept just enough inventory on hand for about 2 hours of production, and the site was also located within 2 miles of the customer that actually assembled the automobiles. This means that if something happened to production at our production facility for more than 90 minutes, this halted the production of the automotive manufacturer. Part of the service agreement that we had with these customers was, when they sent us an order, we provided that order within X number of minutes. If we didn't, we were fined X number of dollars. If by chance the unthinkable happened and we completely halted production, this in turn completely halted production of the customers as well. So part of that service agreement said that if we halted our customers' production, we paid the customer 100% of their losses for our outage. So when our production stopped for 6 hours because of a bug in software, it shut the customer down too. This meant that our company had to reimburse the customer for every single dollar they spent on their entire production lines. All costs, meaning all labor, all electricity, everything. So yeah, when an automotive manufacturer completely shuts down production on about 10 assembly lines, costs add up very quickly. That is hundreds of salaries every single minute to reimburse. So when I say that it cost the company $218,000 per minute, that is an exact factual number. It wasn't the cost of the printer or workstation itself. Oh my god, man, this is something wonderful. Best display of instant karma I've ever seen. Just effing imagine how much money that is. What a panic it must be for all the employees. What an expense. OSH. And just imagine what will happen to that boss in Costa Rica. I think he's going to be the one taking the fall for the whole company. I feel sorry for him already, but I do not feel sorry for your other management that were so greedy that they did not want to provide a single employee with a normal salary. $31,000 per year is a pittance for a specialist with your workload. I just can't imagine how you could stand so much time in such conditions at this job. I am very glad that you left there and found a better place. And the last story is, my boss told me to F off, and I took that personally. Last week, my company healthcare couldn't meet payroll for like the 6th time this year, along with a bunch of other BS, like my health insurance accidentally getting terminated a month ago. They're also being sketchy and giving us paper paychecks, I presume to avoid making deductions, instead of direct deposit due to cash flow issues. It's kind of an SH show as I've worked here for about 5 years, get paid very well, and my patients depend on me. I've therefore put up with a lot of BS. So last week I go to ask for a paper paycheck because it was already 2 p.m. and hadn't received it yet, and wanted to cash it to make sure it didn't bounce. When I walked upstairs to HR's office, I found the CEO, HR director, along with another 2 coworkers. I proceeded to ask for my paycheck. The CEO promptly told me to F off in a deadpan delivery. I said nothing, turned around, went back to my office, packed my SH and F'd right off. I now have 2 better paying jobs lined up and several unanswered texts from the CEO, saying I was kidding. I've ignored him and plan to put in my notice this Monday. No paycheck, verbal abuse, health insurance getting terminated, and just a general hostile work environment. Yeah, no thanks. Dude, your CEO's an a-hole and you did the right thing. You should get out of places like this without looking back. Don't expect anything good from them. And to his I was kidding carelessly reply, the CEO of the company I used to work for once said 2 words to me that I think you need to hear. I hope you love these stories. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications.